All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Houston Rockets Daily. I'm wearing these damn pants every time I do. The microphone gets messed up, so I'll keep my hands up here. Today, we're going to talk about the Houston Rockets trade deadline. It is literally 6 days away. By the time some of you guys watch this, it might be 5 days away. And Bleacher Report dropped an article a couple of days ago talking about all 30 teams in the NBA and kind of like leveling the desperation, and they classified the Houston Rockets as medium. And so we've got like three dudes who I think are the most susceptible to getting traded away at the deadline, and then you've kind of got like tier B. So tier 1 is going to be John Wall, it's going to be Eric Gordon and Christian Wood, and then tier 2, Christian Wood might be kind of like in between there, but tier 2 is going to be like David Nwaba, Daniel Tice. Maybe you want to throw in DJ Augustin in there. But man, if the Houston Rockets make zero moves this trade deadline, I will be extremely confused. I'm as big as an Eric Gordon fan as most of you guys, but I mean, if we're being real here, there is a zero reason as far as why we should hold on to this man moving forward. Unless you want to get into like mentorship and leadership ability, every team needs veterans. Every single team needs veterans. But I think for the way the Houston Rockets are kind of formed right now with 4 rookies being drafted in this last year's draft class, I feel like we're kind of more in that standpoint of it's time to unload some veterans. I mean, I like the veteran presence we have on our basketball team. I don't think that John Wall will get traded, and I don't think Christian Wood will get traded. Now, earlier today, there was a trade regarding the Los Angeles Clippers and the Portland Trail Blazers. So Robert Covington was a part of that trade, and he was kind of like that veteran piece that was being rumored in a lot of these contender trades. And so the bad news is the Los Angeles Clippers absolutely fleeced them. They fleeced the Portland Trail Blazers. So the reason that's bad news is that was kind of like, it wasn't the first trade so far this season, but it kind of is like the first big trade. And usually that first trade is kind of what gets the dominoes rolling, and it kind of sets the precedent for trade value. So with Eric Gordon right now, honestly, I understand how valuable first round picks can be, but what I'm more looking for in return of Eric Gordon is just some type of piece we can use, whether that's like, an older dude who's on a 1-year contract who's going to provide some value. I'm not talking about like an Eric Bledsoe. I'm talking more about like some guy who's just going to be there solely to either get bought out or just play the bench. Not necessarily like a Dante Exum or a Victor Oladipo. I can't think of a good comparison, but the Houston Rockets should be able to get a first-round draft pick from Eric Gordon. I think they're going to have to pick. Apparently, like the Pelicans have been calling, the Suns have been calling, and I think we got one more. The Cleveland Cavs have been calling. So I think what you're going to be looking for in an Eric Gordon trade, the big thing is his contract's about $18 million a year. So you're going to have to match that salary. So the thing with Eric Gordon is, as much as I would like a young player in return, it's kind of hard to envision that. I would imagine what happens is like a Ricky Rubio and a future first-round draft pick, maybe with some slight protection, like, maybe like top 5 protected this year, top, lottery protected this year or something of sorts. I'm just trying to get as much value as I can from Eric Gordon. I think ideally in my best world, in my ideal world, my fantasy dream, I'm thinking we're getting a first-round draft pick, a salary filler, and then some young, enticing player, not like a Keon Johnson, but maybe like a Brandon Boston Jr., like some dude who hasn't really gotten an opportunity in the NBA, where you have this contending team, maybe like a Jalen Smith would be a perfect example, where you have this contending team looking to add maybe one more piece that kind of gets them to that next level or makes them a little bit more comfortable come playoff time. So when actually looking at Phoenix Sun trade proposals, they're not that bad, man. It's like Dario Saric, a protected first-round draft pick, and Jalen Smith, and that's a trade I would hop on immediately. As far as Christian Wood goes, unfortunately, man, it's not really looking like he's going to get traded. The Houston fan base is relatively split on it. I feel like actually most Rocket fans don't want to trade Christian Wood just based off the way he's been playing basketball recently. If Christian Wood was putting up numbers like 15 and 8, I think most of the Houston Rockets fan base would be open to the idea of trading him. The thing with Christian Wood is he's on such a friendly contract. The contending teams, non-contending teams, they're licking their chops at the ability to get a guy like Christian Wood onto their franchise team. The thing, if you trade Christian Wood, is you're probably going to get some young, promising type of basketball player along with at least a first-round draft pick. Now, the bad news is the market's really going to decide what this is looking like. I mean, a couple of years ago, Jrue Holiday got traded for 3 first-round draft picks. Say a Jrue Holiday for 3 first-round draft picks were to occur, then maybe you're going to get a big package. My big concern with the Rockets trading Christian Wood right now is it looks like this trade deadline is going to be relatively quiet. And what that means is it's just not good for the Rockets. If teams aren't really maybe they're actively pursuing these trades, but it doesn't seem like they're willing to give up all that many pieces. Otherwise, I think we would have seen the departure of Jeremy Grant. We'll see what happens this trade deadline, but so far only one trade. John Wall is a kind of weird situation based on the fact that the Clippers have already made a trade for Norman Powell and Robert Covington earlier today. I would imagine, unfortunately, John Wall doesn't get traded. Now, in previous videos I've mentioned, I'm not really in a rush to trade John Wall because, I like the development of guys like Jalen Green, Josh Christopher, obviously KPJ. And if John Wall were to enter that lineup, it would complicate a lot of things for the development of these young players this season. And if you were to trade John Wall, the thing is you're going to be getting probably at least 3 basketball players back. 2 of them are probably going to be older dudes on expiring contracts that maybe the Rockets buy out. And then that third guy's either going to be like a somewhat promising basketball player, or it's going to be more of like a plug-in play, not Luke Kennard, but kind of like a Luke Kennard player, someone who's not on a horrible contract that the Rockets would probably hold on to just money-wise. The thing is, I'm not in a rush to trade any of these dudes because I like where the Houston Rockets are sitting salary-wise, where 2 seasons from now, 1.5 seasons from now, we're going to be looking at least 2 max free agent slots. And you also got to keep in mind, not soon, but sooner rather than later, we're going to have to pay our 4 first-round draft picks once they get, 4 years later, once they're done with their rookie contracts. And then we're also going to have to probably pay Kevin Porter Jr. a pretty penny. So the Houston Rockets, as unentertaining, as uninteresting as it is, if they were to make 0 moves at the deadline this year, it's not that bad. It's actually probably more of a positive for the future. That's really why I'm not against trading John Wall, but I can see where Rafael Stone is being kind of hesitant to it, because you're probably going to be getting 3 guys back, and at least 2 of those 3 players, or at least one of those 3 players, is going to be on a several-year contract. And depending on how the money is looking, Rafael Stone's not going to make some stupid decisions. He's a smart man. He's not going to go out here and trade John Wall just for some, shitty contracts just for the fact to trade John Wall. So we'll see what the Rockets decide to do, man. Honestly, I'm thinking at this point only one trade's going to go down. Just kind of based off how the NBA trade deadline is going right now, I would imagine one of the 3 players I just mentioned is going to be traded. Daniel Tice, David Nwaba, I would imagine both of those 2 guys will be remaining a Houston Rocket. Maybe not so much David Nwaba. I feel like he's a little bit more on that hot seat just because hasn't really had a crazy impact on the Rockets this season, and I could see a contending team giving a somewhat enticing offer to the Houston Rockets. So drop some comments down below on what you think the Rockets will do at the trade deadline this season. Hit the like button, hit that sub button for daily Rockets content, and I'll see you guys later.